Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Heroes Show, and welcome back to Marvel Wednesdays, where we are talking about Marvel Studios' Hawkeye, which episode 4 is now streaming on Disney Plus. That episode was entitled Partners. Am I right?
Yes.
We are going to be talking big time spoilers. There were a lot of breadcrumbs that we got in this episode. We had a deliciously awkward scene with Kate, CB1, Jack, and
CB1.
Eleanor. A great movie marathon training session. More mystery around this Rolex watch, and then we were paid a visit by a major new MCU character. That had some pretty evil intentions, as it seems. So, Nick, how are you? Happy hump day. You've made it halfway through the work week. How are things?
Yeah, things are good. Things are rolling right along. And obviously Wednesday has a bit more excitement than usual since we're back with Marvel Wednesdays. And
Yes.
Hawkeye's been a great show. And just, again, it's unfortunate that we only get 6 episodes, but every episode is, highly cherished, especially around this time of year.
Yeah, it is a festive show, and it's
Yes.
hard to believe that it's 2/3 of the way done already, which is
That's sad.
crazy. But
Yeah.
we've got 2 more episodes of this, and then Thick Daddy Boba premieres the week after for Star Wars on Disney Plus. We're excited to cover that too. So
Yeah.
before we get started, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Help us get to our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Again, this is your final spoiler warning. We're going to be diving into plot points for this episode, and Nick, I'm going right to the elephant in the room for this one. Yelena Belova showed up at the end of this episode. I mean, so my first question for you, yes, we got a cool fight, and it was between Clint and Kate and Echo and Yelena. Who called Val to set up the hit on Clint? That is my question.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty interesting because I wondered if, again, maybe if it was Eleanor that called Val and then Val called Yelena.
Yeah.
Because even though Kate was in Maya's apartment and there's a notepad with, information on Clint and his family, his kids, right? And then Maya's fighting Kate in her apartment, but then Clint's like, I'm fighting her right now. And I'm like, no, you're not. Who are you fighting? And of course, the mystery and the disguise of who is fighting. You can honestly tell at that moment.
Oh yeah,
the style of fighting. And I before we even really got to the reveal, I even had it Clint fighting Yelena with like 5 question marks. Like, so
yeah, man.
It was one of those things where I honestly, I knew we were going to see her. I thought we were going to see Yelena in the last episode, though. So it's interesting that we see her, and again, we realize how real it just got, as Clint, states to Kate, and his whole demeanor, his facial expression has completely changed.
Everything changed. Yep. Big time. I think there's a good chance it was Eleanor who made the call. But it makes me wonder, what's the tree to get to Val? Like, does Eleanor have a direct line in to Val to make these types of calls, or does she have to maybe call the Kingpin and then the Kingpin calls Val? Like, if you had told me like a couple months ago that there was a chance that Valentina Contessa Allegra de Fontaine is working with Wilson Fisk, I'd have been like, nah, don't even start that shit. But now we're in a place where that's a genuine possibility.
Very much.
I thought the green eyes were really cool. That was a direct pull from, there's a comic cover of Yelena wearing the 3-eyed thing on her head, which is pretty neat. I'm also curious your thoughts on, why did she not say a word? She showed up, fought, her face was revealed, and then she was like, oh, all right, I'm gonna bounce.
Yeah, I was expecting a little bit of dialogue. Not a lot, but something. And the fact that it was just confirmation of her face, realizing who it was, what she's a part of. I don't want to say it left something to be desired, but it's enough for Clint to understand what's going on,
right,
and to have a bigger idea. Because I feel like now he's going to contact Laura again and tell her, hey, everyone is in jeopardy. We've got to, get everyone out to some sort of,
somewhere.
black site, some sort of safe house that they have, just because of protection for the family. Because that was a very interesting scene where they're talking on the phone and she's speaking Russian.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And then of course more asks about the Rolex too, which interesting. I'm not quite sure who it's really tied to or what the significance is behind it, because I was trying to think about who from the Avengers, aside from maybe Tony, would wear a Rolex.
So I made that joke in my head. I was like, oh, they're just bringing back Tony Stark. It's his Rolex. Because
Like,
they need a jolt from Robert Downey Jr. But like, I don't know who it could be. Like, I don't see Nick Fury wearing a watch like that, or Coulson's dead. Thor wouldn't wear a watch. I mean,
obviously, Steve's not.
Right, he has the little timepiece that's got Peggy's picture in the slot when it opens up. So it's like, who could that be? I don't know.
Probably not Sam. Probably not Bucky. Probably not Rhodes. So obviously not Strange.
Although Strange does have a heck of a collection of watches from the first movie. Like, they don't look like that one, I don't think.
Yeah, but maybe it could be. Maybe it was something that was lost that he had maybe in the compound, but I don't ever remember him going to the compound. So
aside from the Endgame final battle, I don't think he's ever been shown there before. So it'll be interesting. I'm curious to see where exactly that goes. But that brings me into, I have a theory. And my theory is that Clint's wife, Laura, was at one point, whether it was a SHIELD agent or a Black Widow or something, she was in the thick of it, I think, at one point. And I think she fell in love with Clint. They got married, they had kids, and maybe somewhere along the way, Nick Fury basically just erased her entire history, which is why she has to live out on the giant farm. That's why she's never in any of the other stuff with the Avengers. Maybe that's why she's not in New York with the kids during Christmas time, because she's not allowed to leave that place.
She's not allowed to live.
Right. Like, she's not allowed,
or be alive.
Like the SHIELD version of witness protection is where she's. Her name might not even be Laura. Who knows? Right.
Very, very true.
So I don't know. All the stuff with her being able to track down information on Sloan Limited and knowing about the watch and whoever it belongs to and speaking Russian, like, I think there's a lot more to meet the eye about her character. And I really hope that in these final 2 episodes, we find out a little more.
Yeah. I thought it was very interesting, even from the beginning, when Eleanor has a little chat with Clint at the elevator and just completely name drops Natasha Romanoff, and I'm like,
cold as ice.
I'm like, that wasn't a good move. And again, him finding out like that Sloan Limited is a shell company for money laundering for the tracksuits, and of course, coincidence, Jack Dufresne is the CEO, right? And again, for probably up from there is probably Mr. Fisk.
Yes. Yes.
And I hope, again, because of now that we got this reveal with Yelena, there's some phone calls happening that the rumors are true, and Uncle does make an appearance in episode 5 here.
I'm hopeful. I'm hoping we're getting a big time Netflix week next week. I hope we get Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye. I'm hoping we get Matt Murdock in Spider-Man, and then the tears of joy can flow.
Hell's Kitchen can be once more.
That's right. It can be rebuilt for like the millionth time.
Yeah. So one of the other questions I had, and thinking about a little bit more about when Clint meets, I forgot his name, but neck tattoo guy, Kazi, yes. He tells him to tell Maya to back off, right? And it's for her own good. He doesn't want anyone else to die. And of course, on the rooftop, Kate obviously saves Clint from getting murked between Maya holding him and then Yelena about to kind of just run him through or something along those lines.
Yep.
And as she shoots the kind of, I don't know, arrow that explodes or something like that, is kind of like a little kaboom there.
Yeah.
But then she shoots Maya like right in the shoulder,
Right in the shoulder. Yep.
and she obviously breaks and throws the arrow out, but she has this look on her face and then she leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And I for a second I thought maybe Maya will kind of understand the grave risk
Yeah. Who she's
and
dealing with, right?
right, like, oh damn, like this person's not afraid to shoot me with a bow and arrow.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously someone who's very skilled at fighting.
Yep.
And maybe she doesn't know who that was, but then obviously someone that's going toe to toe with Hawkeye, an Avenger. Maybe it's time that she backs off or understands a little bit more, and who knows, maybe she is the one that goes before uh Uncle and is like,
I don't
sign
know,
language,
man.
what's going on, sort of thing. I mean, there's a lot that could happen, right? This is all just
Yeah.
like a speculation theory, but um I wonder, because obviously going with the comics, Maya does kind of, you know goes away and I think teams up with Daredevil at one point somewhere in the
She
comics,
fights him
but
at first, and then he
right,
convinces her that he didn't kill her father, and then they team
right.
up for a bit. So
So I feel like Daredevil's role has been switched with Ronan,
a little bit,
right?
yeah. Hmm.
So like, and that's kind of what he's trying to say, like, I didn't kill your father, Ronan killed your father. Ronan was like a bad time for me, sort of thing.
Certain point of view thing again.
Right. Yeah. Like that part is like he was telling Kazi, you're chasing a ghost. I told you
Yep,
the story.
he's
Ronan is
gone.
dead. He's
Yeah,
dead. He's not coming back. You know. So I'm curious for Echo's sake, since we are getting a show from her at
yeah,
some point in time, what that's actually going to mean for her character in this show.
yeah. I think that means that obviously she's probably not going to die during
Right.
this. Although
Right.
stranger things have happened, but it would make sense if there's some sort of like face turn where she ends up fighting with the good guys and the ultimate bad guy is revealed, which we're
Right.
hoping is the Kingpin. Which I don't know if you caught it, and I can't remember if it was when Clint was talking to Laura or to Kazi, but he referred to him as the big guy,
Yes.
which that's a euphemism, right? For like anybody that's at the tippy top of an organization. But come on, man, calling him the big guy when Kingpin is like the big massive dude, like
Size guy. Yeah.
they're tickling, they're teasing, and they know we want it, and they haven't given us what we
The
want
Easter
yet.
eggs
So
are real.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
between the Fat Man Auto Body Shop last week and then calling him the big guy
mhm.
in this one and all that, I think it's gonna happen. So
Yeah, I think we're more likely to see him than we thought we would be more likely to see Mephisto in WandaVision.
I think so. Yeah.
So maybe we won't be wrong this time around, but a couple of the cool parts I think in this episode all around, like we finally see um Clint open up to Kate a little bit
Yeah.
more
It was awesome.
about Natasha and the blip and being Ronin, right?
Being Ronin. Yeah.
And of course we get those flashbacks when he's trying to sleep, and um there's that second when Kate falls over the edge and he's reaching over to her, and it's
Yeah,
like, I'm
man.
like, oh man, that is, I don't want
Yeah.
to say too soon, but
It's framed just
it's
like
framed,
Endgame. Yeah.
yeah. And she's like, pull me up, and he
Yep.
kind of just like, go home. And thankfully she didn't really have much of a fall, and she had some nice Christmas lights to
Christmas
kind
lights
of,
to fall on.
yeah. So
It's great.
whereas Natasha just had a flat surface
On Vormir.
from a much higher distance at that.
uh, on an
um
alien planet.
but to maybe end on a more lighter note, like I really really enjoyed, and I think the dialogue and the banter between Clint and Kate was superb.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
entire Christmas scene in the apartment was super wholesome. It was
Hmm.
very character and relationship building, and even with the whole coin thing, she's like, I don't believe you, because I'm gonna tell everyone that Hawkeye, that was bullshit.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
Okay,
ping,
fine.
ping, 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 and she's like, "Oh my god!"
Yep.
But then the fact that she learns to do it, and there's this sort of like connection, right? And I mean, I think even for the sake of I know we talked about, I think I might have mentioned it, or one of us might have mentioned it, but about how uh, Clint kind of telling and opening up to Laura about Kate and like to protect her and make sure that she's good. So there's no like sort of gray area in terms of like what's going on.
Yeah. I think by the end of this episode, they actually are partners, even though Clint is like refusing to call them such. I think that is the case. The line when they're talking about the boomerang arrows, that is actually, believe it or not, that is directly pulled from the Matt Fraction comic. However,
Nice.
it's flip flopped in the conversation in the comics. It's Hawkeye saying to Kate, "They're boomerang arrows," and she's like, "Boomerang arrows? What's a boomerang arrow for?" And he's like, "They come back," and it's literally like word for word what they say in the episode.
Interesting.
And then later on in the comic, in the same issue, Kate uses a boomerang arrow and it flies past someone, and the guy kind of chuckles at her, and then it comes back and hits him in the back of the head and knocks him out, and she goes, "They come back," and it's a fun little moment in the comics. So I love the little, the little homages, and hopefully we'll get to see a boomerang arrow. So I don't know, man. We got 2 episodes left for a lot of stuff to wrap up on this one. So we're 2/3 of the way through. What do you score in this episode 4?
I'm gonna get a little more granular.
Okay.
I'm gonna give this like an 8.8.
Wow, that high, huh?
Yeah, I think because of, again, this is a 35-minute episode, but I think with the amount of information and things that they included from the source material, or the plot progression and character development, again, I think because of seeing Yelena earlier than I had expected, I think that accelerates the emphasis as to how these last 2 episodes are really going to play out. Right. So again, I think if I have any expectations it's that these last 2 episodes are like solid 9s for me in just terms of overall greatness and what they really have to offer. But what about you?
I'm gonna say 8.5. I have really enjoyed, like, aside from the fight at the end, there wasn't a ton of action in this episode,
right?
But like giving Clint a personality and like character moments that he never got because he's always overshadowed by Thor and Cap and Tony and all that has been really refreshing. I love all the mystery of who's the owner of the watch, who's calling the hit on Clint, who's the actual bad guy behind the strings pulling everything. Like they're doing all this cool mystery stuff, and it's a small story, but it's really intriguing and it's really exciting. And if Wilson Fisk shows up next week, I'm just gonna lose my mind. And
that'll be a solid 9.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It'll be just
like
a Kang show at the end of Loki.
Yeah.
Impact. So man. So that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you guys are enjoying Hawkeye as much as we are. If you are, drop us a comment below. Let us know what you think. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already to help us get to 1,000. Check us out on social media. We are on Twitter and Instagram at Real Heroes Show. We've had some great content already this week. We talked about The Harder They Fall. Nick had a Dexter video. We talked about The Wheel of Time. We talked about Shrink Next Door. And we've got some other stuff cooking as well. So make sure to stay tuned for all of those things and so much more. And we'll see you guys in the next video.
Cheers.